to meet you, Trent, and current CTO of Document Crunch. Is that correct? That's your position?
That is correct. I've been with Document Crunch for a little over 3 years now, back in May. Originally, I came on board as the chief operating officer as we were a very early stage, just trying to take on really any of the functions that we needed support on. And then I recently transitioned into the chief technology officer role, which is really what I had come here to do. So excited to be here.
Nice. Well, I really want to get a little bit deep into contracts and construction contracts, but I kind of want to get to know you a little bit first, if you don't mind. Do you want to give any version? We got time, so any version of your backstory that you're willing, maybe that's relevant to us here.
Sure. So I came into building products very early in my career. I'm a computer scientist by background. And so I've been building software products my entire career, even before I got out of college. But I had been in the Houston, Texas software community for a while, and I got introduced to a general contractor, Satterfield and Ponticus, while I was building products for the database monitoring and backup recovery space. And one of my former quality assurance managers had gone over to Satterfield and Ponticus, which is a large Texas-based general contractor, to become their IT director. He said, "Hey, these guys are working on some interesting problems, trying to figure out how to take information out of like 3D models for like costs, understandings and scheduling and estimation. Would you be willing to talk to them just to brainstorm how they might go about doing this?" And I did. I met them out for beers and talked through what they were doing. Super smart guys, but not like deep technologists. But they knew what they wanted to accomplish. And I was like, this is an interesting problem. I was like, why don't I just prototype something on when I got some time and see what we can do. And so that actually got my toe into the construction technology space. One thing led to another there, and we formed a company called Assemble Systems, which was one of the first really web-based building information modeling products. That product still exists today. We sold it to the Autodesk a while back, but it's crazy. I'll go into people's offices and sophisticated general contractors that have been using Assemble for years, and they have continued to use that product for the last almost 20 some odd years. It's crazy. And so that got me into the construction technology space. I was there for about 7 years, then went on to run the product division for a company called JB Knowledge, which was building bid management systems and subcontractor pre-qualification systems. And so I got to understand the network effect of construction, like how subcontractors and general contractors interact with each other on bids. So that was super interesting. And that was run by a CEO named James Benham, who is deeply embedded in the construction technology space. Actually, I think he had one of the first podcasts, if not the first podcast, the Contact Crew, which still exists today. Now run by Jeff Sample. Anyway, I got to know a different part of the industry there. I helped him exit that company to Construct Connect. And then I went over to Construct Connect for about a year to run their general contractor division before I decided I wanted to get back to early stage again. Construct Connect is part of a large public company. And so I wanted to work with early stage companies and make an impact with CEOs that were trying to find product market fit, figure out their business strategy. And that's how I got connected to Document Crunch. One of my former colleagues who is now over at Procore, Chris Langiza, who runs their partnerships for a while, connected me with Josh and said, "Hey, these guys are up to something super interesting that I know is going to be valuable, but they are lawyers who have never built a product, never built a company before. Would you be willing to talk to them?" And so I spent some time with Josh, our CEO, and Adam Hanfinger, one of our co-founders, and just really liked them, the vision and mission that they were trying to accomplish, which was to democratize contract knowledge. I just thought that really struck a chord with me. And then I had a couple of partners that were working with me on advising Document Crunch, and Josh was working on raising his seed round. He said, "Hey, look, I need to form a leadership team. Would you guys be interested in joining?" And that was how we got launched into Document Crunch. Crunch.
That's awesome. What a story too. I feel like a theme that comes out of that is the people stuff. You seem to follow good people. I wonder if that is a guiding principle of yours.
Absolutely. So, I mean, every CEO that I've worked with since Assemble, and I've worked with a number of them, even though I've in some cases have advised them, they've all been people that I think had a real passion for the industry. Like they were looking to make a change in construction. And I kind of fell in love with the construction from that first company, Assemble. I just like the people in construction. I think they're a lot of they're characters, right? I mean, they're out there trying to build the world. So I gravitate towards CEOs that have like a mission and a vision for how they want to impact the industry, and they just want to go for it. And so, I'm not the person that comes in with the vision necessarily, although I help shape that vision in my own way. If those CEOs have that right view of the world, then I'm usually in for it. One of the particular things, though, Josh Levy, our CEO, has just his value system for what how he wants to build a company and a culture really resonate with me. And we make our company values, our core values, part of like how we hire, how we fire, how we build and people internally. And that is, to me, that's just a really important thing. I learned that actually from working with James Benham over at JB Knowledge. The values aren't something we just put up on the website. It's something that literally is the DNA of our culture. And I think to me, that's really awesome.
I think contracts are in theory, they should be about people too, about building trust, about maybe helping people have trust for each other when they otherwise maybe couldn't. That's like the idea I think about behind contracts, but in construction, they're usually just a tool for litigation or a tool for one side to hold something over the other. And the other thing I think about being in construction management for over 15 years now is just contracts don't even get read a lot of times by the people who need to read them. And then they get used mostly just in conflict. Do you think this like tech can help that problem? Have you seen it be helping that?
100%. So you struck a chord with me there. We all know the dirty little secret, and I sit in boardrooms all the time talking with construction executives and project managers, and everyone will tell you that the people who most need to read the contract don't, because they don't have time. They're out there building projects, and like the last thing that they want to do is pour through a bunch of legalese that's a pain in the butt to actually understand. They just want to get to building the project and putting their skills to use. And so what we're doing at Document Crunch, not even trying to do at this point, we have hundreds of customers that are using the product daily to understand their risk in their contracts without them having to be legal experts. Even for legal teams, it's actually supporting them and helping scale that function and find the information and understand how they should be negotiating better. And that's not just for general contractors. Subcontractors actually make up a huge portion of our customer base, and they're the ones that, are typically getting risk pushed down into them and putting them on at least a level playing field so that they are in a better negotiation position because they understand what they're dealing with. Even if they can't get everything that they want, it puts them in a better position to understand like how they should think about positioning themselves best for that negotiation, right? And so we believe that ultimately no contract should be signed before running it through Document Crunch just to understand where you stand, right? I mean, it's like the least you could do, and it's there to kind of be that guide by your side, like supporting you with like rationale and insights for why a certain position is positive, negative for you. And so we interestingly recently had a situation happen where a general contractor and a subcontractor found out organically that they were both using Document Crunch to negotiate, and they were like, why don't we just open this up and like let me understand what your position is. You can understand where I'm coming from, and they're able to negotiate more from that point of view. And I was like, it's one of those things where from a vision standpoint, we've always had a vision that eventually maybe there is some sort of network impact here where Document Crunch can kind of be central to that negotiation. But to me, that was like one of those eye-opening moments where it's like there's a world in the future where Document Crunch becomes that platform on which basically a subcontractor and general contractor just say, let's connect on their various silos that Document Crunch understands the positions they want to take and just automatically negotiate to the best outcome to fits, to the point of view of each of those stakeholders. And I think that's ultimately where we're going to go. We're probably a few years away from that point, but like we're learning more every day about how different stakeholders manage risk. And we started out with a lot of out-of-box solutions to say, hey, these are the 45 things that you should know and focus on if you're working with a prime contract. But we've got some of our customers that have like a 250 item checklist that they go through with every contract. I mean, their level of detail, their granularity, and what they care about is very tailored to them. And there's, that's one of the things that I think Document Crunch really hit on very early on was we shouldn't come out with a position that we know everything. Like this is the definitive way that you should be reviewing or negotiating contracts. But how can we allow the solution to be tailored to you and your company? Because as we also know, every contractor likes to do it their way. And that's really been a key to our success.
Yeah, I spent like the first half of my career, I guess, in forensic construction management. So I saw all kinds of ways construction projects can turn into lawsuits and how nasty it can get. And just the thing that I was constantly reminded of is the only people winning in these scenarios are the attorneys. It's just, I do hope something like this will help us keep out of litigation. Is that a hard thing to track, or is it pretty easy to see like, oh, we prevented something here right at the beginning that could have taken us somewhere really bad in the end?
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. I would say it's always hard to know what you have prevented. It's much easier for you to know when something happened, like how you helped someone with that scenario. And so I wouldn't say that we have great metrics on that, although I believe we'll have much better metrics over time. A lot of that becomes more organic conversations that we have with our customers about what their experience was before Document Crunch and after Document Crunch. But I think that's going to be coming, because I think in general, we should see that there are fewer disputes. As a matter of fact, we just recently updated our grand sort of vision and mission, which is zero disputes and stronger relationships in the construction industry. Now, that's an ambitious mission. We're never going to get to zero disputes ultimately, but I mean, like, to drive towards that and to be able to start measuring it is a big key to where we think we need to go as far as our company mission is concerned. And I think one of the things that we believe needs to happen in order to achieve that mission is that the reason that a lot of claims happen is because people aren't paying attention to the right things in the right time. And I'm sure as you experienced in that forensic construction, which that's a very interesting thing. So I'd love to get into that more. Maybe interview sometimes. But what happens is claims happen because things weren't done at the right time or things slid by. And one of the things that we believe is that there's a missing layer to the overall construction technology stack, and that is this automation of compliance. Like what we're doing with Document Crunch started out by helping people understand what is in their contracts. But the truth of it is that we now have enough data and understanding of contracts to turn that into like a digital log of the obligations that someone has signed up for when they sign that contract. What we want to do is transform that set of obligations, these digital obligations, now into a way that we can track those through all the various systems of record on a project so that we can try to see when these things emerge. And even going deeper into the future, like how can we monitor the project in real time? I mean, through different things like IoT devices and other things, but that's where our ambitious plans are. But like right now, just basically creating that means of people understanding and digitizing those obligations, connecting into the current systems of record so that we can begin to automate compliance. For example, if everybody on the project is in some cases obligated to create a daily log of what is going on, we all know that sometimes that's very inconsistent. And we also know that sometimes things show up in the daily log that should have been tracked in the project. For example, if someone mentions that weather is delaying the project, did the right person send the notice? Can Document Crunch monitor for those situations and automatically create notices based on those conditions and just help set up the team so that they can just push a button or they can modify that notice and get it out to the right folks so they're not also winding up in a situation where a claim might emerge? There's all sorts of those types of situations that have happened, and they all tie back to the obligations of the contract. So that is where our focus right now is to move from just a world where we're helping people review and negotiate to a world where we're actually automating compliance during the course of construction.
That's awesome. I don't know if this will go far, but I wonder if there's specifics about, because I think about when and how a contractor gets paid is a big thing in construction, and just pay applications and figuring out, oh, you're charging me for this much material. Is it on site? Well, no, it's in a factory. Can you take a picture of it? You know, all these kinds of conversations that come up. Is Document Crunch helping make those things less subjective, easier for a contractor to get paid when he wants to? Or
that is where we're going. So collaboration built into the products so that those types of scenarios we can be a part of connecting the right stakeholders, not just within a company, but across the different entities that are involved in building the project. We can inform them and make sure that like we are buttoning up those scenarios where it's like we're starting the conversation or we're involved in the transactional conversation that is happening along the way. That's another big piece of it. So you're going to see us really flow more into collaboration across stakeholders than just within a stakeholder over time.
that sounds like an exciting future. I imagine it being all good. I think about AI a lot too, though, and I am one of those people that's kind of in two minds about it, fearful and in awe as well. I don't know if you have the same dichotomy, but how are you guys approaching implementing and utilizing AI into your product right now?
Yeah, so we started out in Document Crunch as a more traditional machine learning based AI company. I mean, where we were training algorithms to go and identify key language provisions, for example, in a contract. All of us, I think, went through the ChatGPT moment, different stages maybe, but we were very early on to that. I mean, I was paying attention to it to understand what was really novel and why it was seeing the wide adoption. And what wound up happening was it really became transformational to how we thought about our product. Generative AI is a different beast than typical natural language processing machine learning. And what it did is a lot of things that we had dreamed of doing became possible like overnight. And I say overnight with a little bit of hyperbole because it wasn't really overnight. I mean, the technologies weren't there to do all the things that they are today, but the rapid pace of innovation that's happened in the generative AI and LLM movement has just, I mean, it's insane. And so things that like new models drop now it feels like weeks. It used to be months, but now it feels like weeks. And things that didn't work before just automatically start working when some of these new models drop. And so what we found was that we knew customers wanted to really tailor their Document Crunch experience in ways that it would take us so much time in the past world to train new models for, and we'd have to have huge amounts of data to do. And now, like our entire review checklist is powered by not just the NLP models that we built before, but by generative AI. So customers can come and tell us the things that they're trying to do, and we can translate those into high-powered, high-quality prompts that we can build into those checklists. And then as a part of that, we rolled out chat with your contract, which seemed just very simple, like at the time, which was like, okay, well, you're not going to cover necessarily everything that you want to with a review checklist. There's all sorts of little different nuanced items that come up during negotiation and after you sign the contract. And that capability just like took off like a rocket. Like the people, as I like to tell people come for the review in Document Crunch and they stay for chat. I mean, like they come back to chat all the time and in ways that we would have never thought about them using. And so, and we monitor that so that we can understand how to improve the product, maybe add new capabilities based on common patterns that we see people asking of their contracts that we may have not built in to the core product. So that chat capability really took off. And then one of the big things that we knew that was important was that, just like we talked about earlier, the people who most need to read the contracts don't. So the project managers and the project engineers and the superintendents, the people that are on the project day to day that need to understand their obligations. We had built out this concept of like a template for a project playbook, but ultimately the customers had to go and fill that in. And so with generative AI, we can now actually completely create the project playbook based on the findings in the contract and other notes that the teams provide, and automatically produce a project playbook at a push of a button that makes it negligent not to read it. I mean, because you're not looking at legalese, you're looking at the way that experienced people in that project would have summarized that contract so that you can intake it. So that's been super exciting, but it doesn't really end there. What it also has put us in a position of doing is to be able to support the review and understanding and the Q&A of any document on the project. And so there are ones that we want to be able to very prescriptively help support teams with, for example, tracks, but the specifications are also contractually obligated documents. So, and these are like really gnarly, sometimes thousands of page long documents where it's it's not even an issue of legalese. It's just an issue of finding the needle in the haystack. We focus on supporting those as well. So we're going to be we rolled out like early supportive specifications, but we're about to roll out native supportive specifications, understanding things down to like how the divisions are broken out in the spec documents, and helping people understand how they can really take the maximum advantage of those. So there's more we could talk about, but those are the big things I would say that we learned along the way. And the other cool thing I guess I will add to that is that we know that our customers have a lot of products that they use today, Procore, Autodesk, etc. We also wanted to take Document Crunch to where they work. So we rolled out integration with Procore last year. That's really taken off. So we've got the playbook can now be distributed to the project team through Procore. They have the ability to ask questions of Document Crunch right through that add-in. And we're now working on integrations with Trimble, Bluebeam, etc. So got a lot of exciting things down the roadmap.
That's awesome. I wonder if you don't mind sharing some examples of like what people are asking their contracts that might be surprising, but providing special amounts of insight. Like, are there questions you can think of that people are typing in about their contract?
Well, a lot of things that they want to know about that's not necessarily built into a standard review or that they want to dive deeper on are things like liquidated damages. Like, so you'll see all sorts of interesting questions come up there. And oftentimes people ask stuff that, if we hadn't natively built our AI engine to understand construction language, you'd never be able to answer these questions. So liquidated damages, you're talking about payment applications. There's a lot of questions that come up about structure of payments and making sure that people understand that go beyond the review. But what I find most interesting is what people are doing that is not part of a review, but is more about the generative capabilities, which are things like, can you generate this notice? Hey, I've got this challenging situation, for example, with a particular owner or with a particular contractor. I want to form a way of communicating around this topic in a way that is not going to piss them off, right? And so there's a lot of like that thing that I see pop up that is always surprising, and how they're basically trying to get them steering the model in a way that is going to help them get the best outcome. So that's a lot of very interesting. And then I mentioned before, what do you do when a claim arises? We're starting to see customers come into the product where they've got a situation that is emerging, and they're using Document Crunch to help them figure out how they should position themselves, either before a claim has arisen or as a result of a claim having come up. And that I think you're going to see a lot more of, because we're very oriented around that dispute scenario. One, hopefully preventing them, but then the mitigation of them. You can use Document Crunch as a tool or a weapon, depending on what situation that you're in. So I see a lot more questions coming up there now that Document Crunch has been in the market for a couple of years. We've got people they've got Document Crunch live on projects, and they're using us to help them shape conversations or to help them mitigate a situation they might be in.
Yeah, it makes me think, like, I wonder why contracts were ever written this way or specifications were ever written this way. I kind of do understand why and how that happened, but it does feel like one of AI's strengths is kind of like a language translator, whether it is good at teaching me Portuguese, for example. My wife speaks Portuguese, so I'm trying to learn. And a lot of times it's a great tool for that. But it does help us contractors understand legalese, I think, pretty well. And I wonder if that's one of the things about the future that will benefit from AI is just communication walls breaking down. And it feels like Document Crunch is on that too.
I completely agree. One of the most interestingly widely adopted features in the product is this explain feature that we added in, where you can basically just highlight anything and you can say explain, and it'll basically explain it to you. I mean, under the guts of it, it's basically explaining it to you like a high schooler, right? It's like, just make this simple so that I can do it. I mean, I agree with you. I used to have to negotiate contracts all the time when I was running a business myself, not in construction, but in software. It's the same thing. Like, I look at things and all of a sudden it's like, I feel like I've gone into the matrix and I'm like, what is happening? And it's terrible. Like, I mean, contracts should be written simply, but because, the construction industry is such a litigious industry, they have evolved into something that is almost incomprehensible with that purpose in mind. Let's make things so complicated so that another person that's reviewing this just, I mean, is overwhelmed. And, the construction industry, unfortunately, operates off of asymmetric information. Like, I mean, like one contractor knows more than the next one, and you always want to be in that position because it puts you in the best position on the project, knowing that you're going to wind up running into some type of claim or litigious situation that you need to take advantage of. And I think that's why we've wound up where we are. I mean, I will definitely say, having reviewed many contracts in my time, and contracts and specifications and other documents are just crazy complicated for what they should be.
Why build technology for the construction industry? I mean, I've been in it from the start because I loved Legos as a kid and wanted to be an architect, but I've always just loved construction. But I think it's uniquely a great time for young people to be thinking about coming into our industry and bringing tech with them. And I also think people who are in other industries. I've actually been having a lot of crazy conversations with people in tech industry saying, maybe I'll start a contracting business. And I'm like, do it, come try it out. Like, you're going to fail at first, but would you encourage people to join this industry?
Not even just encourage it. As a matter of fact, my son graduated high school this year and is going into construction science next year for college. And so I don't know if that's because he's heard me talk about construction for so long, or just, I mean, but frankly, he's like, I want to get out there and build. I want to be in the field. Like, I mean, I think, but all these kids are coming up AI native, and that's going to have a huge impact. I mean, like, you're going to see folks that are out there in the field that, they got all they got is their phone with them, but they're going to talking to their phone and asking about a scenario that they see, and they're going to have an expert in their pocket, right? And one of the things that I'm really thinking a lot about now is how can we get all of this institutional knowledge from the generation of construction professionals that are going to be retiring? How do we get that information into a knowledge base, whether it be Document Crunch or something else, but that we're able to leverage that knowledge for the future, right? Because we'll have more advanced technologies that are going to help with construction. But the truth of it is, I mean, most of construction is a very labor manual process that you're dealing with that is unique to every project. And so that's never going to change, right? So helping people when they need it with technology, I think, is important. But I mean, the skills and the trades that need to be educated, that's not going to change. I mean, maybe one day we have all of these advanced robots building buildings, but that to me sounds like a long tail of the problem. I think we're going to have people out there building these projects for a long time. Another thing that really attracted me to the construction world was that, interestingly, and I tell people this all the time when I'm recruiting software folks into our company, is that you're going to find that building buildings and building software have a lot in common. Like, I mean, every piece of software that we build is a snowflake. Every project that gets built is a snowflake. But a lot of the same tools, like, I mean, you use Procore for project management. In our world, you use Jira for project management. I mean, it's like, but I mean, like, the concepts are the same thing. We got to schedule. We have to understand our cost. We have to make sure that we're pacing and we're on track, and that this particular group of folks that understands this technology knows what they need to do, and this other one is actually collaborating with them. It actually surprisingly rhymes a lot with each other. And so that's what attracted me to construction, was that it's an industry that I feel has not gotten the advantage of great technology in the way that other industries have had, like my industry, for example. And I just really want to bring great products and great solutions to that world.
Just to add to that, I think too, we're with AI coming and we're all thinking about which jobs are going to get lost. I think about it with mine too. I can think about maybe 90% of the tasks that I spend my time on can be automated soon in the future. So I'm thinking about, what am I going to spend that time doing? And I think one of the things is we have to keep building physical stuff. We need data centers, we need energy. So I just think there's two things that I'm doubling down on, and it's really just both humans and doing stuff with my hands, skills that actually are tactile, but also just caring about people and relationships. Are you there with me?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in some ways AI can help you even with that, right? I mean, a lot of times that people, once we talked, I mentioned asymmetric information. Most of the times that you're having conflict is because one person thinks they understand something and the other person thinks they understand something, and both of them are thinking differently. How can we leverage AI to help bring literally, you said AI is a language translator, but how can it be a human translator? I mean, half the time I use AI, I'm actually using it for communication. For example, like building out communications for my board of directors or for my CEO or whatever, because like it's very helpful in me thinking through the structure of how I want to present something differently, right?
Hmm.
And maybe better, in many cases, better than what I'd originally done. So I think it can help with those human relationships as well. It can definitely be a great brainstorming partner. I use it all the time as a brainstorming partner for like ideas that I want to shape or think through that I haven't really had the time nor maybe even the mental horsepower to think through. So there's all sorts of ways that I think you can leverage AI to turn yourself into multiples of yourself in many ways, or at least from a productivity standpoint and from just things that you wouldn't have ever done. And that's going to actually have a huge impact on construction. I mean, thinking about like all the things that you can automate, there's so many long tail things that we don't do in construction specifically, but other industries as well, because you just don't have time. Like, I mean, I talk a lot to teams that are wanting to run through like different constructability analysis, but they really only have the time or maybe even the expertise to do it like once or twice on a project, maybe. Like, imagine if you could run like 50 constructability analysis to figure out how you can save budget or think about scheduling. Imagine like that world. That's coming. Like, we're not very far from that being a real possibility. And I think when that happens, that begins to change construction in a very material way, because you just are now doing stuff that you would have never been able to do before. You'd have never even been able to put mental cycles toward. And that's what it gets me really excited. I feel like I often feel like we're moving really fast, but I feel like I'm working through the sludge right now to this like bigger opportunity that's going to be coming down the line. But this industry also, as you know, doesn't just accept new technologies quickly or adopt new technologies quickly. I will say this is the fast. I mean, I've been around this industry now for better than 15 years, maybe more. I have never seen the pace of adoption of new technology like I have seen in construction in the last 2 years. It's insane. I mean, like that, and just the topic, like it feels like I think it was early last year in 2024, maybe first quarter of last year in 2024, where I was telling our CEO, Josh, I was like, something has changed. Like, I would go to conferences and before, and it was like, I feel like I was always pushing the boulder up the hill. And I was like, something just went right over the top of the hill. And like, now people are coming to us, asking us how they apply AI to different scenarios. And that just has never happened for me personally in the industry. And maybe there's other areas where that has occurred, but this definitely is something different.
I was listening to a podcast with Simon Sinek, the Start With Why guy. He was talking about how one of the things he noticed with the internet age is like, even before that, there weren't really big winners. Like in the automotive sector, you've still got Ford and Chevy, and there's kind of always competition in other industries. But when the internet came around, like Google kind of won the search game and Amazon kind of won the shopping game. And there's a few other examples. Maybe you could say Apple won the phone game, but like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm of two minds about this as well. Sometimes I kind of want a company to win the construction tech game because I want unity and everything to talk to each other. I want to get rid of all the silos of data. And I know that can be done without it all being one monopoly, but do you think that it's headed in that direction? Like, are things coalescing, or do you think there will always be a need? Like, Document Crunch came about kind of for a specific need, right? And it's a tool, but I could see people adopting it and wanting you guys to be everything. Can you guys just be everything? Is there a temptation there that you fight against, or is it something that you're like, maybe we can, maybe we should, if we're doing it this well in this space, maybe we need to expand? Is that something you guys think about?
Yeah, I would say that the way that we think about it is that we feel like at each stage we need to earn our rights. Like, we're not, for either better or for worse, I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, we're not arrogant people. Like, I mean, like, we know that the reason people came to Document Crunch originally was because they simply needed to understand what was in their contracts. And we want to be the absolute best at doing that. We feel like if we're the absolute best at doing that, we will earn our right to be the entry into another opportunity, which, as I was talking about, is really focused on this compliance automation. And so we've earned the right to do that because we've demonstrated that we can help democratize the understanding of risk. So we should be right there in the fulcrum of helping people understand or helping people automate the monitoring of that risk. And if that opens us up to a bigger opportunity, great. We'll obviously be very close to that, and we'll try to be working towards understanding that opportunity before maybe the market does. But that's how we approach it, and I think it's the right way to approach it. I've seen other scenarios, even myself, gotten probably cocky in past lives, and I was like, we can be, the Swiss Army knife, but if you do that too soon, you haven't demonstrated that you have the right to do it, and it falls flat. And so I think that's our approach, is that it's kind of crawl, walk, run. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Like, we even talk about this when we hear all about agents, which is like in the AI world right now, everybody's talking about agents. I'm like, I just don't believe the construction industry is ready for agents. They're barely starting to like use chat, right? And so right now we're trying to get people through those phases where we're seeing like people see value, and then basically have Document Crunch as a trusted partner to them, so that we can take them into that next piece of the journey. And I believe if we do it that way, we'll get the opportunity to maybe put ourselves in a position to be a bigger product, a bigger platform. That's where we're going. That's how we think about it.
You can say, hey, back to the doggy. But yeah, I don't have a lot else. How do you want people to get in contact with you? Do you like LinkedIn or? Yeah,
my preference is LinkedIn. We're very, very active on LinkedIn, Document Crunch, myself, Josh. If you ever want to get in touch with us, trust me, that's we'll be happy to talk to you. Obviously, always come to our website, DocumentCrunch.com, but definitely to engage with us individually, like LinkedIn's the best place to do it.
Really appreciate it, Trent. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thank you.